Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling a big one. We're diving into a source that really challenges the common narrative about women in Islam. The answers it gives, well, they might just surprise you.
So the source starts off by saying, look, we all know the common perception, right? You see it in the media all the time. This idea that Islam is inherently oppressive to women, that it treats them like second-class citizens. It's often the first thing people think of.
But then, right away, the source throws a real curveball at us. The actual numbers tell a completely different story. In the United States, a staggering 4 out of 5 converts to Islam are women. And it's not just a US thing. A study in the UK found that 75% of converts there were also female.
And that leads to the central question this whole analysis is built around. I mean, if the popular story is true, shouldn't those numbers be the exact opposite? It just doesn't add up. So what's really going on here? Okay, let's get into it.
To try and find an answer, the source actually takes us on a bit of a time travel trip. We're going back to the 1700s, and we're going to see the Ottoman Empire through the eyes of an English aristocrat. And get this quote is from Lady Elizabeth Craven, an English historian and author from that time. And her take, after observing the society around her, was that Muslim women were the happiest creatures breathing, and that they enjoyed an incredible amount of liberty. That's a pretty direct contradiction to the European view back then.
So why was she so surprised? Well, the source argues it's because of the huge legal difference for women. Back home in England and America, when a woman got married, she basically vanished as a legal person. Her property, her money, any inheritance, it all legally belonged to her husband. But in the Ottoman Empire, a woman kept her right to own and control her own property, to get an inheritance, and even to file lawsuits.
And it wasn't just about legal stuff. The reality for many women in Europe, the source points out, was, well, it was pretty grim. We're talking about the horrific practice of wife-selling being recorded as late as 1913, the mass executions during the witch hunts, all while learned men were literally debating whether women were even human or had souls.
And here's a fact that really drives that contrast home. The world's oldest university that's still running today was founded by a woman, Fatima al-Fari. Think about what that means. To do something like that, she must have had access to education, she had to have the right to own and spend a massive fortune, and she had the social influence to make it all happen.
So the argument here is that these rights weren't just some happy accident. They were part of a deep, foundational change to a woman's status that covered her entire life, from beginning to end.
The source presents this as a complete revolution, step by step. The horrible practice of burying newborn girls alive? Banned. A woman's consent for marriage? It became mandatory. A financial gift from the groom, the mayor, became her exclusive property to ensure her security. Motherhood was raised to the sacred level, and widows actually gained the right to inherit from their husbands instead of being inherited like property.
And this wasn't just some theory, right? It was practiced. The source brings up this famous story where a woman literally stands up in public and corrects one of the most powerful leaders in history, Khalifa Omar, on a point of Islamic law. And his response? Not anger, not defensiveness. He immediately accepted it, saying, "The woman has spoken the truth."
All right, let's tackle what is probably the most visible and, let's be honest, most controversial symbol associated with women in Islam, the hijab. Okay, and here's the first thing the source wants us to understand. Hijab isn't just for women. The very first command in the Quran about this is actually for men, to lower their gazes. It's framed as a two-sided system, a shared responsibility. So why this two-part system? What's the goal? According to the source, it's all about protecting the family unit. The whole point, it argues, is to build a kind of safeguard around the marriage, protecting that essential loyalty and trust between a husband and wife.
And to see how this might play out in the real world, the source points to a pretty striking social experiment from New York City. The same woman walked around for 5 hours. When she was in revealing clothes, she was verbally harassed 108 times. But then, she did the exact same walk wearing a hijab and got 0 harassment. 0.
So when you look at it through that lens, the whole idea of the hijab gets turned on its head. Instead of a restriction, the source argues it's a form of empowerment. It forces people to engage with her mind and her character, not just her body. It protects her from being objectified and gives her complete control over who gets to see her.
Okay, so all these pieces, the history, the rights, the hijab, they all build up to the source's big final conclusion about how society should be structured. The argument is that, hey, even today, with all our progress, our own human-made systems are still failing women in some pretty major ways.
The source points to things we all see, the gender pay gap, the way women are objectified in advertising, and the huge pressure on single mothers who now run most of the homes in hundreds of towns across England and Wales.
And that leads to the ultimate thesis here. Humans, we're flawed, we're biased. So the source concludes, maybe true, lasting justice for both men and women can't come from us. It has to come from a divine system, from a creator who is neither male nor female and is therefore completely unbiased.
And to put a face to this idea, the source brings up the late singer Sinead O'Connor. Here's someone who was a feminist her whole life. She openly admitted that she had so much prejudice that she avoided looking into Islam. But when she finally did, she said she found something totally different from the propaganda.
And that, right there, brings us all the way back to the beginning, back to that statistic that seems so confusing. The source concludes this is the reason why 4 out of 5 converts in the U.S. are women, because they are finding a system that they believe offers a value and a protection that they couldn't find anywhere else.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Okay, but what about polygamy? What about the inheritance rules? What about certain controversial verses in the Quran? These are the tough questions, and the source knows it.
And it doesn't just sweep them under the rug. Instead, it basically says, hold on, those have answers too, and they're simpler than you might think. But they need their own dedicated explanation. So it's a bit of a to be continued on those topics.
So that leaves us, and you, with one last big question to chew on. Any system, any set of rules, is designed to achieve some kind of ultimate goal. So after looking at this framework, what do you think the ultimate goal for society is that this system is trying to build and protect?